Good afternoon. My name is Captain Gray with the Sarasota Bradenton International Airport Fire Department, and today we're going to be covering the topic called Introduction to Airport Familiarization for responding mutual aid companies to the airport. Little housekeeping rules. First of all, I've got about 15 years in fire service, 11 years in our field, and 6 years as shift captain. I got my associate's degree in fire science technology in 2004. A little housekeeping, restrooms are in the hallway, water fountain is also in the hallway, and exits are to your right and behind the wall here, instructor. Please take all calls outside the class if you need to. Course time expected to be about 30 minutes or a little bit more. And feel free to ask questions as you need or just wait till the end of the class. All right, the lesson goal is upon completion of the lesson, the student's going to be able to recall basic information related to operating on an airport either day or night, basic communications procedures, information concerning emergency responses when receiving the request from the airport. Alright, the lesson objectives we're going to cover is first of all discuss two basic types of airports, controlled versus uncontrolled. The next one is going to be discussing airport layouts such as runways, taxiways, and the difference between movement and non-movement areas. Very important objective is going to be discussing lighting, signs, and markings found at airports. Discussing and mastering the phonetic alphabet that we're all used to, but ensuring that we cover the airport use. Identifying designated emergency gates and grid designations for SRQ. Discuss the light gun signals and procedures used for loss of communications with ATCT or air traffic control tower. Then we're going to identify major landmarks in the airport, such as rental car lots, the fuel farms, fixed base operators, and the airport terminal. We're going to identify most likely locations for incidents at an airport. We're going to distinguish between normal structures and airport navigational aids. We're going to identify water resupply points available at SRQ, as well as discuss the necessary radio frequencies for operating at an airport, specifically SRQ. We're going to identify the ARF station, staffing and units and capacities that we have here, and lastly, but certainly not least, foreign object damage or FOD. What is it? Dangers and avoidance. I've been dealing with a cold of sorts, so please bear with my voice. Alright, first objective, discuss two basic types of airports, controlled versus uncontrolled. What is the meaning of that? Controlled airports have operating towers with air traffic controllers who manage all of the movements both in the air and on the ground at an airport. The difference, conversely, uncontrolled airports do not have a staffed operating control tower. Specifically, here at SRQ, the air traffic control tower is open between 0600 in the morning and midnight. Between the hours of midnight 6, of course, as our definition says, it is uncontrolled, and we will go into that further. Objective 2, we're going to explain the basic airport layout. Generally, airports are designed to utilize the prevailing winds at your local airport. We will go over the runways that we have here at SRQ in a minute, but aircraft take off and land into the wind to provide extra lift and takeoff and to provide for slower approaches and landing. Runways here at SRQ, we have two intersecting strips, as you can tell on the map. Runways 14 and 32 are different runways, but they utilize the same hard surface. The same with 04 and 22. Both runways here at SRQ are 150 feet wide, and the long run 1432 runs about 9,500 feet in length, as well as 422 runs just over 5,000 feet in length. More information about our runways here. We have each runway, regardless of its size, has an area surrounding called the safety area. All runways at all airports have this, which in relation to commercial air traffic must remain clear for at least 15 minutes prior to and 15 minutes after a scheduled air carrier takeoff or landing. Air carriers are those aircraft operated by airlines such as Delta, US Air, and your JetBlue and so on. Safety areas here at SRQ, and it could vary by airport, but here at SRQ, the safety areas extend 250 feet to either side of the runway. The runway center lines. So here you can tell 250 feet on either side. You have quite a large safety area. Depending on the runway configuration, they have varying extensions off both ends of the runways. And next is a basic general diagram. It's not to scale, but it gives you an idea in picture that where the safety area is. Alright, taxiways, another important component. In relation to getting from point A to point B in a car, a taxiway serves the same purpose for aircraft movements on the ground. Taxiways are typically designated by an alphanumeric combination starting with A for alpha and so on. Again, we're going to go over the phonetic alphabet, which also plays not only communications but also the taxiway designations and so on. Primary taxiways are named first and then secondaries. The following screen will be a map. We'll show you the primary and secondary taxiways here at SRQ. Designations for taxiways are not standard at all airports. The local jurisdiction has the say for what designations taxiways obtain. Here at SRQ you can see there the big runway 1432, and you have taxiway Charlie and taxiway Alpha that parallel the large runway, the longer runway. And then the shorter runway have taxiway Bravo and Delta. And then all the other outlying taxiways are also non-movement areas, which we'll discuss in a minute. But additional taxiways and non-movement areas include the Foxtrot, Hotel, Golf, as well as Echo and Juliet. And then over here, Tango, and of course the terminal ramp. Movement or non-movement. What does it mean? Simple definitions: movement areas include all taxiways and runways which are controlled, requiring you to receive clearance from ATCT or the control tower before entering. The only exception being during the hours of, again, midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning, when you announce your intentions on a designated frequency. Non-movement areas include those taxiways as denoted on the previous screen in purple, again here and here. And we won't say all the names again, but also included is, like I said, the entire air carrier ramp highlighted on the previous page. Further discussion of follow-on markings and how it plays into movement versus non-movement. Such as this symbol you see here: movement area boundaries indicated by a single dashed line and a single solid line. When approaching from the dash side, you do not need to stop. Just like a marking on a roadway, if it's going down the center line of the roadway, on your side, if the solid line is there, you're not allowed to pass. If it's dashed line, you are allowed to pass. When you approach this mark from the single solid line, of course, you shall stop and receive clearance from ATCT to proceed onto a taxiway. The runway hold short location. We'll have a diagram in a second of what that means. It has multiple means of notification to operators. At a minimum, an operator sees this symbol on the ground, a double dash and double solid yellow line, and you approach from the solid line side, it means stop. Red and white pavement marking works in correlation with the double solid and double striped. It indicates the approach of runway to a relative position. I'll go into a little bit more in a second when we have the diagram of the particular sign. Enhanced taxiway centerline is another feature that allows you to, informs you that you're approaching that marker where you need to hold short before you and call for clearance from ATCT. An enhanced taxiway centerline marks marking starts at 150 feet before you get there, so you have plenty of time. Alright, so a little bit more on what we've covered slides prior. Hold short position illustration is a very good diagram here. Stop. What this screen is saying is you have to stop and get that clearance from ATCT before you move onto taxiways, especially, and then onto runways. Double solid, double dashed pavement markings, as discussed earlier. Essentially, they mark the markings yell at you to stop if approaching from the solid side. When you come up to on a taxiway, you have your enhanced taxiway center line. That should tell you first that you're coming up to the threshold of a runway. And then you see the mandatory compliance sign that tells you you're at the threshold of a runway. And relative to the approach end of the runway, such as here at SRQ, would be 1-4 and 3-2 instead of 10-28, but 1-4 would be to your left, 3-2 would be to your right. On this side, you've got runway guard lights. Here at SRQ, it is electrical. We have them at every intersection. They wig-wag back and forth, letting you know also that you're at a threshold and you have to stop. There's all kinds of symbols that working together here at SRQ, fortunately for our sake, that allow us in inclement weather and bad conditions to tell us to stop. When you encounter any one, and at most times will be a minimum of this double solid and double dashed line, any one or a combination of all these elements, a vehicle operator or aircraft operator shall stop and contact ACTC on ground control frequency for clearance before proceeding across or onto any runway. And we'll go over the frequencies in a minute. Any questions? Alright, excuse me a second. Alright. Next, we're going to discuss airport lighting, signs, and pavement markings. And some of these examples here, but we'll go into them more in a second. Alright, airport lighting at SRQ. And this is pretty standard at all airports, but specifically here at SRQ. For sure, white lights always mean runway. If you're seeing white lights on either side, you're on a runway. You will only find white lights associated with runway center lines and edges. Amber lights, special situations, as we already discussed on the far right side. Last few thousand feet of a runway edge, or alternating runway guard lights, as this picture is shown there, and they're located on either side of the hold short positions in association with markings as we already discussed. Blue lights. Blue lights are found only in association with taxiway edges. Red lights used to denote an obstruction or do not proceed area. Additional lighting exists, and we'll see the following slide. Alright, here are some of the examples. Taxiway edge lights, as previously discussed, are blue, white for runway edge and center line. The wig-wagging amber lights for threshold positions. These here are known as in-pavement lights, and they are only used at on taxiway center lines, but we do not have these here at SRQ. This is an example only. On the far top there, runway threshold split lens, green on approach, red on the inside end of the pavement side. In other words, aircraft is taking off, he sees the red side, means he's better pull up and get in the air as quick as he can. He's coming up to the end of the pavement, as well as the green. If he's landing, sees the green, he's in good shape. Note in the box, airport lighting colors are standard throughout the United States and pretty much the world. Requirements for certain lights are not standard, however. Not all taxiways have center line lighting, as already mentioned. Alright, next thing is airport markings. Colors and associated locations are similar to that of lighting. They correspond, they work together. Many varieties of pavement markings are in use on and around airports. And following slides show examples of colors and locations, and we'll go over those a little bit more. Alright, airport markings A little bit more, as you can see, the runway again, runway lights and markings are all white. Taxiway markings on the ground, as you can see there again, are yellow, as well as the outside edge line there as well. The red and white on the ground, as we talked about, the threshold markings, mandatory compliance. You must follow what those signs and markings give you. Signs, three main uses. This is a little bit bigger category. You have directional signs, you have locational signs, and you have instructional signs. Directional signs are used to do just that, direct vehicles and aircraft. Location signs used to show where a vehicle or aircraft is located. We'll go into more detail in a second. Instructional signs, such as also the markings, mandatory, requiring adherence by any type vehicle or aircraft moving across it. It is all one big effort from signs, markings, and lightings to let you know what you need to do. Airport signs, again, directional, black lettering on yellow background. Black on yellow Droxophil is a good saying to help you remember what to do and what type of sign you're looking at. They are used in combination with other sign arrays, such as this one here, and they can be used to indicate directions for a runway, a ramp, or a taxiway. So this one here tells you you're on taxiway Alpha, which we'll go over in a second, and taxiway Charlie is to your left. Alright, location signs. Yellow lettering on black background. This saying I always give out is yellow and black is where you're at. They're used also in combination with other sign arrays as already seen. They can be used to indicate your position. It can be located on a runway, on a taxiway, or a ramp. And in the following illustration, we have them broken down. Location signs again corresponding to the colors. Yellow on black is where you're at. This signs examples you're on taxiway Alpha or you're on taxiway runway 15. The directional location combination array. One big array of signs, but it's once you get the idea of what the signs mean, it's not hard at all. It tells you on taxiway Alpha, and you have the other taxiway directions. This big one here is the most important, location mandatory instruction signs. Again, this tells you you're on taxiway Alpha at 321 runway. And you have to hold short there. That would also mean hold short. Indicating you're on taxiway Alpha, holding short of runway 321. Obviously with the approach of runway 3 to your left and 21 to the right. Requires all vehicle aircraft operators to hold short until issued clearance across the runway. This is repeated for a reason. Summary, to go over this larger section that we've gone over, lights, signs, and markings are used in conjunction to ensure directions, information, and instructions. Make sure they're clear, concise, and standardized. Those marked with the blue star on the following page, I'll briefly go over. They are specifically found here at the airport, such as this one here, not because it's one of our runways, but it tells you that you're at taxiway runway hold position. The location sign that we went over, this is a runway location sign. Basically you're on runway 22. On the right side there, you have the hold position marking. This one here, second one down on the right, ILS critical area boundary, another informational sign that you'll also find on pavement. The directional sign, this here is nothing more than to let an aircraft or a vehicle know that you are coming up to the end of a taxiway. If it's inclement weather, maybe hard to see, but your lights pick it up, tells you, hey, that's the end of the pavement, you better not go any further. And then this one, of course, is a directional and location array that we've previously covered. Alright, objective 4, we're going to learn the phonetic alphabet. It's on the next page. I'll give you just a short period to look over. As it appears, there's not many changes between what most fire department members are used to as what the airport. This one, I think India, I for India, may be the only one that people are not familiar with as much. The other letters seem to be consistent across the board. Alright, objective 5. We're going to identify designated emergency gates and grid assignments for responding emergencies at SRQ. Okay, we have 6 designated emergency response gates for mutual aid agencies to utilize as primary entry points here. They are, as indicated, 43W located at the ARP station behind Ingman Marine if you're on US 41. We have 38W located just to the north of Old Cedar Hammock Fire Rescue Station 4 off of US 41 and Talavast Road. We have 33 North, which is located just to the east of the ATCT off of Old Clyde Jones Road. 25 East, located off of 15th Street East, behind Retrix Fuel Farm. 19S is located next to the SRQ facilities, accessible off of University Parkway and Old Bradenton Road. 15S is accessible also via Old Bradenton Road or Rental Car Road if you take Airport Circle. And then 46S, lastly, is accessible via General Spats and US 41. Alright, this shows the basic gate locations more in a map form. You can see these 2 gates here require special entry, basically inspections by the police department to ensure that unwanted items are not brought onto the air carrier ramp. Alright, so in responding to the airport for a call, the OIC would designate an appropriate gate based on the emergency needs and location, and that will be transferred, relayed through dispatch and so on to your agency. It will be done according to grid number that we will go over in a second. The escort onto the field will meet responding companies there. SRQ overlaps 2 counties, Sarasota County on the bottom 1/3 and Manatee County on the top 2/3 of the grid map and of the airfield. Both counties use a grid map system. Manatee County system comprised of 4-digit grid coordinates and Sarasota County 3-digit grids.
Fire Station Firefighter Kish speaking. How may I help you?
Okay, the grid map was created by Combined Fire and EMS grid maps of Manatee and Sarasota counties.
Yes.
Grid 20XX and 19XX for Manatee County and grids 00X of Sarasota County. And I'll show you in a minute the map. The airport and surrounding areas is divided into 9 boxes with the center box 2036, and I'll show you that more in a second. But this is a little breakdown, and I'll be able to explain it with the map in a second. The map has the advantage of being simple and is already in use by both counties, so it's a very simple and easy system to follow. Here you see the 4-digit grid map coordinates for Manatee County in the top 6 boxes and Sarasota County in the bottom 3. And as I said, bottom box 2036 is broken into the 4 specific areas, pretty much crossed by the midpoint of the runways. I can give you a breakdown after class of the specific areas for description. Alright, objective 6, we're going to discuss basic airport ARF communications at SRQ. The ARF department utilizes a digital 800 MHz trunking system comprised of portable radios and a base station. ARF units here at the airport utilize 1 channel for all emergency operations, whether medical, fire, or aircraft related. On the airport system, the ARF department uses channel A4 to receive emergency notifications, and a few exceptions exist, but A3 is our channel that we transmit all our normal day-to-day routine and emergency transmissions. 10 codes, pretty much standard across the fire service, are no longer used, as well as any other fancy jargon. Plain English will do just as well. In order to communicate with ATCT here, the ARF department, we utilize 2 frequencies, but really the aircraft as well use the same frequencies. Sarasota ground, to get on the movement areas, we utilize 121.9, and on the tower to get on the runways or cross runways if need be, 120.1. Tower frequency is used only if an aircraft or other emergency is located or on or within the safety area of the runway. Alright, basic elements of talking to ATCT. You state who you're calling. It follows every other radio procedure. Basically, you state who you're calling, you state who you are, you state where you are, and state what your quest is and what your purpose is. This is sample dialogue. Again, I can provide this after class. Basically, if I was going to go from here to the air carrier ramp from the fire station, it would go based on this description here. It'd be Sarasota ground, ARF1 is at the fire station. I would like to proceed to the air carrier ramp for a medical call. And then it gives the controller everything he needs to know as to what. The only thing I'll specifically note on this page is that all hold short instructions by the ATCT must be read back to them at all times. That way they acknowledge that you know what they're saying and they that you understand what you're doing. Alright, as previously mentioned, midnight to 6, air traffic control tower is not in operation. This period, the units operating in any area of the airfield should use even more diligence. It's a sea of lights at night. It's very confusing, can be very distracting. When ATCT is closed, all units operate on the tower frequency of 120.1, also known as the common traffic advisory frequency. There's a lot of material here, but it's very basic material, and this presentation is available for further review. For communication during the hours that the ATCT is closed, the dialogue should sound basically like I said before, but it's a little changed. Sarasota traffic, ARF1 is at the fire station. I'm going to proceed down Taxiway Alpha to the terminal ramp, crossing runway 422. All sounds very confusing. You end in Sarasota traffic, that way they know what you're doing, where you're at, and who you are. Once you clear a runway, anytime you clear a runway or cross it, you also advise either traffic or the ATCT that courtesy call that you're clear of that runway so they can continue. Warning, big red letters, use extreme caution on any time while operating around aircraft on any movement areas, day or night. Have your head on a swivel, and aircraft always have the right of way. Do not become a creature of complacency, it will kill you. Loss of communications in this case. Vehicles should turn towards the control tower if you lose communications and flash their headlights, which will signal them you are experiencing communication loss. Then they will turn in turn signal you. In this case, we'll go over it in a second, but their desired action for this vehicle is in green. On the left here, we have for movement of vehicles, equipment, and personnel, a chart showing the colors that they'll flash back at you, and on the right, a whole different setup for the aircraft. But again, another easy help that can be provided to you after class, but just know that there are specific light gun signals for what the tower wants you to do. Objective 7, we're going to identify major landmarks at the SRQ airport, such as fuel farms and multiple fixed base operators who run their own fuel farms for the purpose of refueling aircraft. Fuel farms inspected per federal regulations every 90 days or less. Approximately 15 fuel tanks on this airfield, ranging in capacity from 500 gallons of diesel to 30,000 gallons of Jet A. Here are the different products we keep: Jet A, diesel, and avgas, all nasty stuff. Fuel farm map, you can see the layout of the fuel farm map, approximate gallons per fuel farm. We won't go into detail on it, but fuel farms indicated below only represent the bulk storage, not the fuel vehicle storage that's kept in the fueling vehicles that each location has for the aircraft, another approximately 70,000 gallons. So it's a lot of hazard, basically. SRQ landmarks, again, miscellaneous structures, navigational aids, as I talked about earlier, structures built around the airfield that provide guidance to arriving or departing aircraft. Structures are typically orange and white in color, so do not go near them. Try to stay clear from them. They are high energy, high electrical output, and they're required for signals. Extremely dangerous, can contain corrosive batteries, and sometimes powered by propane generators and LPG generators. So they're not things to mess with, not buildings to mess with. Briefly, the airport terminal is a main building. It's got 3 floors in it. The concourse has 2 floors in it. There's a ticket wing, the main terminal, and the baggage wing. Part of the buildings lie within the security identification display area. Again, it's a special area around the terminal that you have to be escorted into. The entire airport terminal and concourse is protected by both fire alarm and sprinkler systems, backed by a diesel power pump and electrical jockey pumps for plane fire protection. Note the jetways are very high voltage. Also, jetways are very apt to help in spreading fire from aircraft into buildings and buildings into aircraft. So there are basically fire tunnels that perfectly capable of spreading your fire. The Airport Authority and FBOs own and lease out to general aviation pilots hangars for storing aircraft. Okay, but there's some other hazards. We all know that everyone's garage is more than just a garage, right? Typically in issues, they store more than just airplanes. All sorts of hazards for firefighters, fuel cans, electrical chargers, poor housekeeping, you guessed it, it's there. Very likely to hold unknown dangers for responding users. Hangars are not monitored, however, they're not alarmed, and they're not protected fire-wise. At the end of each row of the hangars, you will find the typical location for master power breakers. Rental car lots. Many of your major rental car agencies are located here. They all have their own prep lots and access them through via University Parkway as well as Airport Circle. The issue is access. We don't usually even have access, so it's an issue of gaining access to get in for the various types of calls that we've had. They're listed on the bottom. Objective 8, identify the most likely location for accidents on or in the vicinity of the airport. Typically, accidents will happen in the first and last 5 to 10 minutes of flight. Majority of the accidents occur during takeoff or landing. They're due to loss of engine, or too much airspeed, or not enough airspeed. You will aircraft stall and take off and landing, and then that's where your accidents happen. Congested ramp areas also have a tendency to be very tight and congested. You add a fuel spill or something like that, our vehicles makes it even tighter. Runway taxiway intersections also be due to blind spots in aircraft, tight corners, so on and so forth. So a lot of areas susceptible to things going wrong in an instance. Next objective we're going to cover is identify the designated isolation areas for possible terrorism incidents. It's a huge thing now since 9/11. Specific designated locations for parking and blocking an aircraft. Here at the airport, it varies by airport, but they can be located at the end of runways, edge of ramps, and less traveled taxiways. Next thing we're going to go over briefly is the water resupply points. Because of safety issues, it's a huge thing for mutual aid coming in to note these things. Safety issues don't allow hydrants to be located within the close vicinity of the runways and taxiways, such as the safety areas already discussed. There's 41 hydrants here that serve the airport and so on surrounding areas. You can see most are green or light blue bonnets. Resupply to RFAP apparatus is an important one specifically to the RFAP apparatus. Should be done at less than 80 psi. It'll tend to damage the vehicles. The hydrant that we would like you to use is for emergencies will be designated by the OIC in relation to the incident location. Escorts again to and from the hydrants will be provided by airport operations or the police department. Here's just a map overview of the hydrants. The color in this case does not correlate to the color of the hydrant flow. But you can see most again are on the outside perimeter. Objective 11, we're going to identify potential topographical issues briefly. Be mindful of roads in your own response zones. you know the roads and bridges. Well, here we don't have bridges, but roads. The roads are made to support the vehicle weights here. It would be helpful to ARF apparatus in turn respond to your locations for calls outside the fence, for us to know what bridges and so on are in our way. Navigational aids, again, previously covered, orange and white structures, so as not to interfere with signals being emitted to the aircraft. Want to be careful around them. Present electrical and electromagnetic dangers to responding personnel. Low areas on the airfield represent hazards to vehicles traveling off hard surfaces. Our vehicles are made to go off hard surfaces. Off-roading capabilities. The law of structural vehicles are not. So here's a brief view of some of the low areas on our airfield that you would want to avoid going off hard surface. Next is the ARF apparatus, vehicles, so on and so forth. Just to give you a background of what we do briefly. We're located behind Ingman Marine off of US 41 on Tamiami Trail as well as one of the other designations here behind Gate 43W. The ARF station is manned 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We do not take a break. Shifts of 5 personnel, 1 captain, 4 firefighters. We have adequate personnel compared to a lot of other airports. There's 1 fire chief here at the airfield, but we are able to drop to 4 personnel on duty if need be. Major and ongoing incidents, we can recall all personnel if need be, only because due to federal regulations we're required to have 1 certified person with each structural firefighter that does not have ARF certification. Some of the duties that we do every month is monthly extinguisher inspections, fuel farm inspections, typical hydrant flows, extinguisher training classes, and also we have more interaction with fire protection systems when it comes to construction projects. And also we meet not only structural training requirements but FAA training requirements. Some of the vehicles we have here, and we can share this after class, some of the specific capabilities. We have 4 main firefighting vehicles and support vehicles, as well as trailers for hazmat and MCI. ARF response, 3 types of alerts we respond to primarily. Alerts 1, 2, and 3, going from most simple to most complicated. 1 being just a cautionary alert where we will stay in the station but we've been notified. Alert 2 will actually respond to designated areas, and finally alert 3 is been an actual crash or an ongoing incident that requires action. And the last objective we're going to cover, but certainly not least and one of the most important, is just discussing foreign object damage. Foreign object damage in layman's terms is the result of any item that does not belong in being ingested into an aircraft, blown by an aircraft's propellers, or thrown by a vehicle's tires. They can cause severe to catastrophic damage to aircraft and vehicles. Foreign object debris is any item that causes the damage. And you name it, you think of it, and it's likely to be fodder in an airport. If it appears not to belong, it does not belong. The last bullet point there is very important. All persons operating in an airport are responsible for policing themselves and vehicles, and they are utilizing from leaving FOD behind. Police yourselves. Make sure you don't leave mess, gravel, whatever on the airfield. There's a short review quiz that we will go over, and then we'll go over it and cover the answers, but we won't take the time to review each question now. Any questions? Alright, thank you, and I hope you learned something.